All right. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled council meeting for February 20th, 2018. At this time, I'd like to ask, I apologize for no notice, Mayor Pro Tem Dozier, would you open our invocation?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for being in the midst of this meeting tonight. We thank you for this community that we all have the pleasure of serving in. We ask for you to be with the families who have been affected by recent tragedies and those that have occurred before those. Thank you for those who are serving presently and locally and abroad, and for those who feel as though their work is because they're their brother or sister's keeper. We ask that our decisions are made in a way that's pleasing to you for your people in the town of Apex. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for being patient. Apologize we started 1.5 minutes late. We did have a photo session tonight, so that's why we all came charging in at the last minute, in case you were wondering. That's not normal, but we expect to have some nice new photos down in the glass case, hopefully in a matter of maybe a few weeks.
Will we have darts down there also?
No, that's what the glass is for, to keep the darts off the photos. I'd like to welcome everybody for coming tonight. I hope if you intend to participate at all, you've got an agenda here. Even if all you're doing is just watching and following along, these are out on the podium. In case you missed one, feel free to go grab one. If you intend to speak tonight during public forum or one of the public hearings, there is a guideline sheet that looks like this, the yellow sheets on the podium. And also there are yellow sheets here. You need to pick the appropriate one and come sign up. You have about 10 minutes or so before the clerk will collect them. It might be quicker than that since we don't have any presentations. But if you intend to speak, you need to put your name on one of the sheets here, depending on which one you need to speak at. With that said, if there are no further items, we'll move straight into consent agenda since there are no presentations tonight. Consent agenda items are items that are considered to be non-controversial, and the council typically enacts them with a single motion and vote. If there is anything that a council member would like to pull and discuss later on tonight, personally they can do that without a motion. They just simply need to ask. So at this time I'll ask if the council has any consent agenda item they wish to pull, or if there's a motion to approve the 5 consent agenda items as presented by staff.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, the motion passes unanimously. And we now move to the setting of the regular meeting agenda. This is where we determine what it is we'll talk about tonight. So we have a printed agenda in front of us. Let me ask the town manager, is there anything that he or the town attorney feel needs to change based on the printed agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, not hearing anything. If the council approves, we will accept a motion now for approving the agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. Any discussion on that motion? All right, not hearing any. Call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, the agenda is set. We now move into the time of public forum. As you can see, the town clerk is picking up the pieces of paper now, and as soon as I'm able to get the public forum sign-up sheet, we'll begin that. If you know you signed up first, feel free to come on up. All right, I see we have one person has signed, Stan Thompson. Mr. Thompson, feel free to make your way up towards the front. While he's doing so, just a quick reminder, you have 3 minutes. There is a green, yellow, red light system on there. Please start by telling us your name and address, and then proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Stan Thompson. I live at 3033 White Cloud Circle. And I'm here tonight to ask the town council, somebody who is going to be petitioning an amendment to the UDO for the lighting ordinances, particular 8.6. I'm in opposition to that. There's a major difference between courts that are used for recreational purposes and those that are used for tournament purposes. Typically, those in tournament purposes aren't adjacent to residential properties, where those that are used for recreation are. I'm going to get some paperwork out to the planning board and hopefully to your board, and hopefully you'll hear both sides of the debate before making a decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. All right, not seeing anyone else on the public forum sheet, I will now close the public forum. We move to the time of public hearings. We'll begin with public hearing number 1. This is a rezoning application 17 CZ 27 at Castleberry Trails, and presenting tonight is Amanda Bunce.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh. All right, here we go. Okay, so the subject property is just under 11.5 acres. It's located on the east side of Wimberley Road, just south of Green Level West Road. The property is actually 4 properties that each contain a single-family house, and they are the back 3 are accessed by a driveway within a 60-foot access easement. The American Tobacco Trail is to the east of the property. To the south is vacant. To the west is the Lake Castleberry subdivision, which is under construction. And to the north is the future point at Lake Castleberry subdivision, the master subdivision plan of which you approved a few months ago. The current zoning of the property is rural residential, as is the zoning of the properties to the south. And to the north and the west, we have low-density conditional zoning. The proposed zoning is the same, low-density conditional zoning. The 2030 land use map designates the subject properties as low-density residential, and the proposed zoning district is consistent with that land use classification. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on November 7th, and you have that meeting report in your staff report. The applicant has proposed the following uses to be permitted on the property: single-family, recreational facility private, accessory apartment, utility minor, greenway, park active, and park passive. There are several zoning conditions that have also been proposed. Most of those are architectural standards, of which we typically see. In addition to those architectural standards, the applicant has proposed a maximum density of 2 units per acre, a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, the average lot size shall be a minimum of 12,500 square feet, and the buffer along Wimberley Road shall be a type A buffer. These conditions, the density lot sizes, are identical to those that were approved for the point at Lake Castleberry to the north, so the intent is to be consistent with the style of development in that location.
Amanda, before you flip, do you mind repeating the lot sizes?
Yes. The minimum lot size will be 10,000 square feet, and the average lot size shall be a minimum of 12,500 square feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Planning staff is recommending approval of this rezoning with the conditions as proposed by the applicant. The planning board heard this rezoning at their February 12th meeting and unanimously recommended approval as well with the conditions as proposed by the applicant. The proposed rezoning to the LDCZ zoning district is consistent with the 2030 land use plan. In addition, the proposed zoning district is consistent with the zoning of the adjacent properties to the north and west, will maintain the character and appearance of the area, and provide flexibility to accommodate the growth in population, economy, and infrastructure consistent with that contemplated by the 2030 land use map. I will point out there was a typo in your staff report under conditional zoning standards. It referenced a commercial zoning district when it should have said low-density conditional zoning. So I just wanted to point out that typo. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do they plan to mass grade this? Do you know?
That is unknown at this time. They have not. They have submitted a master subdivision plan. I'm not the plan reviewer on that, so I'm not able to answer that. But the applicant is here and may be able to answer that for you.
Are there wetlands on this property?
I'm unable to answer that question for you.
We'll hold on to those, maybe.
Yeah, I have more questions, but I'll defer to anybody that wants to ask first.
Okay, well, you've got the floor if you have more questions.
Okay, I just want to try to be polite for once.
Thank you, no, it's okay if you wanna,
Okay,
if
thank
you
you.
have other questions.
I noticed there wasn't any commitment to configuring the houses for solar energy. That wasn't apparently talked about. And I'd like to see 15% of the houses with a solar photovoltaic system on it of 6 kilowatts or less. And I guess I have to wait for the applicant
Yes.
to come to the podium. You can commit for him if you wish.
I'm not able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
It was a trick question.
Yes.
All right, and did you have any other items while you have the floor
No, I will,
for staff? Okay.
I'll try to.
All right, any other council members have questions for staff?
May I say one more thing, Mayor?
Sure.
I've always tried to push that, that residential developers commit to 2%, or at least I've tried this, 2% of their sale price to go to non-residential investment in Apex. I just wanted to say that one more time.
Okay.
I'm to the point where I just am getting hardened up that it needs to be done.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bunce.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh.
I have something I forgot
Oh,
to
for
add.
staff?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So at the neighborhood meeting, there was a concern about the Satterfield lot, that the house was potentially a hazard, a health hazard. And, at the neighborhood meeting, they were recommended to contact either the town of Apex or Wake County Health Department. And I didn't know if you had been contacted by the neighbors about this possible health hazard house.
I've not heard anything from Wake County Environmental or from any of the neighbors.
Thank you.
Which one is the house that they were referring to, do you know?
Satterfield lot, so do you know which one that is?
I do
Of
not.
those, yeah, I don't know how.
I'm not sure right off.
Maybe if the applicant...
Mhm.
Applicant may be able to.
Maybe the
Yeah,
applicant may know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, none of the property owners' names are the same, so,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure which one that is.
thank you.
All right, any other questions?
One final question, I missed it because I had a pencil here. There was no discussion, we require the 10 years storm flow control. There was no discussion about 25-year because I was trying to push for that.
We did not discuss that, and that condition was not added to the subdivision or to the rezoning to the north. The intent was to match the conditions almost verbatim
Across whatever is,
for whatever was approved to the north.
I like the stuff next to the west, it looks pretty good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else for staff, all right, then I'll ask if the applicant wishes to speak tonight. And please start by giving us your name and address.
Certainly. Good evening. My name's Don Curry with Curry Engineering Group at 205 South Fuquay Avenue in Fuquay, Varina. On behalf of the applicant, I'm here. Would be glad to answer any questions you might have regarding the rezoning or the technical nature of the plan. So, any questions you have?
Okay, all right, well, I'll start with Councilman Jensen. Anything you'd like to ask the representative for the applicant?
Yeah, typically, or not typically, but a number of developers have committed to pre-configuring their houses for solar photovoltaics in the future. I noticed that wasn't one of the conditions. I would personally like to see that. And I've been pushing, I would like to see 15% of the houses have a solar photovoltaic system on the house of 6 kilowatts or more. Do you have the authority to commit to that tonight, I guess?
I don't. I can ask the applicant if they'd be willing to consider that, but I don't know the answer to that. They're here, so I can
Okay.
refer you to them and see what they say about that. Or I'm happy to answer any other questions while I'm up here. And then you mentioned, you
Yeah.
asked about wetlands, for example. I can speak to that. There are no wetlands on the property.
Okay.
We are not mass grading the property. We're grading the right-of-way, basically, and that's it.
The other thing, the easiest thing, I would like to see a 25-year storm management system rather than 10-year. It doesn't require a whole lot more BMP. I'm not sure how you're going to manage that in this. Maybe there won't need to be any BMPs, wet ponds or anything like that?
There most certainly is a BMP on the property in the
Will be.
proposed design.
Okay.
And our preliminary calculations, we're close to meeting pre-development numbers for the 25-year storm. I don't know that I can commit to that based on the preliminary state that they're in right now, but we're very close to being able to do that. So our plan is to meet the intent of the UDO, and we can probably do the 25-year. I just don't know that I can commit to that at this point, just based on the preliminary nature of the plans. But from what I have so far, it looks like we're very close to being able to do that.
Okay, we can look at that, I guess, at the site plan. The trouble is,
Yes,
we don't have the WIP. You have the WIP at the site plan. So, okay, I'm not gonna push the 2% investment, because that's a little bit in the green zone yet, not solidified, but, I just wanna say that, you know, I see all these houses going up in Apex, and I see no commitment from developers of residential development to try to provide a balance of jobs in Apex for all these people that are coming here. And, I live at Sterling at Buckingham. I try to get out in the morning, and all the cars are streaming towards Research Triangle Park area or someplace else. And in the afternoon, if I try to get out, I might as well just kind of hang up my tennis shoes and wait for a while. And the huge problem is, we need these businesses to be here, and I would like to see developers of residential commit just 2% of their sales price to investing in non-residential here in terms of spec buildings or things like that. I'm not going to push it tonight. It's going to be the last night I think I'm not going to push it, because I've gone back and gone back on what I really want to see, but that's a statement. That is a statement, and I've got to harden up, and I hope the council hardens up on that, because we need the residential developers to help us and really help the citizens, because I look at every residential development that comes into Apex as a citizen of Apex myself. It does me no good whatsoever. In fact, at this point, it's reducing my quality of life. And I sit up here and say, okay, we'll go with this. I do it quite often because my house was built by a developer and I came here. And there's a balance between protecting the people that are here and allowing more people to come in. And it's getting to the point where I think we need to shut it off, basically, until we get more non-residential developments. So,
All right.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Curry on behalf of the applicant?
I do.
Okay.
So a couple of things. I mentioned the Satterfield house, so can you show us where that is? And then see what your thoughts are about this health hazard?
And just for context, that was part of the neighborhood meeting?
Yes, sorry.
Minutes?
Mhm.
I'm not aware of the specific health hazard that may be present. There is a property that's identified as a Joanne Satterfield Shaheen property at 3.8 acres that fronts Wimberley, so that may be the property that you're referring to.
Mr. Curry, any chance, looking at the map on the TV screen there to your right, that you can identify which one that might be? I mean, I understand if you don't know, then you can say you don't know, but there's a mouse there next to you if you think you can point at it.
Yeah. The property is this larger 3.5 acre piece right here, and I believe it's the structure in the corner, which is planned to be demolished. So no, there's a septic tank there that's going to be removed, and everything will be removed per code and per requirements, but I'm not aware of anything particular.
Okay, so the response to neighborhood meeting was that you have no authority to do anything with the property until it's rezoned, or you own them. So once that becomes clear, I hope that you will check this out. And
Certainly.
the other thing would be is if you commit to preserving as many trees as possible. And then I have a question for you. I recognize these are large lots. I recognize there's a maximum of 22 units. But can you kind of give me an idea on the affordability scale where this project would be?
I can't speak to the price point, although my client may be able to do that. He is here. I can tell you that the lots are generous, a generous size. The average is closer to 13,700 square feet. And it's a nice product. I've seen the architectural renderings for it.
Now, so you said the average is what?
13,700
So
square feet.
12.5 is what's in here, so that's not correct?
No, 12.5 I think was the minimum.
10,000 minimum, 12,500 averages, so that needs to be amended then, if that's a change.
It's a minimum of 12,500 for the average.
On average, a minimum on average of, so if they can exceed that with an average of 13,000, they're fine. So, once they divide it all up, the average has to be greater than
500.
12,500, yes. So, and what he's saying is they're well above that.
I got you, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you'll get back to me on that question about affordability?
Yes. Well,
I do have a question, if we can.
Yes, if you were...
I'm sorry, I'm done.
You have the floor, so I didn't...
Yeah, but I want to know tonight, so.
Oh, is that possible? Do you have
I want to know
the
some kind of
ability to know
scale
I can ask the
before I
applicant,
vote.
and, yes.
that? Okay, so we'll come back to that in just a minute. Is that why you're here up here? Yes, sir. Okay, all right, we'll get to you in a second. All right, Councilman Morgan.
Yeah, so, what's the kind of general concept with this roughly 11 and a half acres? Is it to put like one cul-de-sac in?
Yes, it's a single road, connecting to Wimberley on the west, and then, ending in a cul-de-sac on the east, towards the Tobacco Trail. There's also a stub to the north, about a third of the way into the property.
Right. So that type A buffer along I guess is along Wimberley, correct?
Yes.
Is that gonna be, will that be undisturbed, mixed, disturbed, undisturbed? What's the intent?
We are supplementing the existing vegetation, so we're gonna leave what's there, and then add as needed to meet the requirement.
How wide is that, 10?
It is a, 30, yes, 30 type,
30,
yes,
typical.
30 foot
Okay,
landscape.
so the existing vegetation will remain and you guys will supplement underneath?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it for me, thank you.
All right. Any other council members have questions?
I was gonna look for one of the pictures that I saw earlier, and I can't quite find it.
All right.
So while she's looking, I share Councilman Jensen's concern about the lack of the solar wiring, at least. So I think that Apex needs to, the citizens want green ready homes, and so I think it's solar ready homes. I think it's an important thing to include. Another concern I had was about the crosswalks between the neighborhood to the west and this one. I talked to the town manager about this. I think a lot of people are going to be crossing the road in Castleberry over to this neighborhood to go onto the Tobacco Trail eventually, and so I really encourage you guys to work with the town and make sure that crossing is as safe as possible with whatever the town recommends for that, because I know that's not the point yet, but if I lived there, I'd use that trail a lot, and I think in crossing that road, there's probably cars going relatively high speed, and so making sure it's a safe way to cross is a concern with me.
And that's a good comment, if you don't mind me jumping in. It's a good comment, and I think our staff is here, and they've heard that, so they'll probably make a note for when site plan time comes.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a crosswalk or something like that to try to?
Safe crossing.
However the staff would
crossing.
recommend
Yeah.
that safest way, because I think it's going to be a heavily used cross there.
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, safe crossing is important, and we'll let you guys work it out,
Sure,
what that means.
no problem.
Anything else, Councilman Gant? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let me check back with Councilmember Killingsworth here.
So is the intent to, I mean, you've got a stub going upward. I'm assuming at some point you're going to try to purchase the property north of there and develop that as well?
Well, it seems like that would happen at some point down the road. Whether or not that happens with our client and our developer, I don't know, but that stub is there in the event that happens in the future, and it will line up with a connection on the development to the north, which is also stubbed to the south in that same direction. So those would line up in the future at some point. if and when that property owner decides to sell.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea to have stubs to properties that we think will develop at some point.
It's a UDO requirement, I believe, is it not?
That's right.
If it meets certain criteria.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Did you want a second bite at the apple there, Councilman?
Yeah, I would. I'd just like to get a commitment from the developer, frankly, of Solar Ready Homes and 15% of the houses to have solar photovoltaics of 6 kilowatts or more, which comes out to be 4 out of 22 houses. Now, the argument against that is that it runs the cost of the house up, but the argument in favor of it is the net cost to the homeowner means that they save money right off the bat. So it's a win for the homeowner, and if it's presented correctly to the homeowner, it's a win for the developer, for the builder. And we need to push forward on this sort of thing, and I'd like to get a commitment for that. That our own town is looking to put solar on every building we have, because it is, even for the town, without tax credits or anything else, it is a positive. So I would like to get a commitment from the developer before we vote. The 4 houses in this development, and the rest of them solar ready.
Well, I'm going to step aside and let the applicant speak to that, if you don't mind, unless there are more questions for me.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Please identify your name and address. And I guess to be fair,
Yes, sir.
You're the applicant.
Yes, sir, I'm with the applicant,
Right.
that's correct.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
My name is Mick Michaels, I'm with JS Development, address is 4700 Falls of Noosh Road, Raleigh, North Carolina. A couple of the notes I made, and I will definitely come back to solar, it's probably the longest note for me to talk about. Price range, right now tentatively $375,000 to $450,000 is our target price range. One of the things on this deal, which is not a sad case, is as you've seen, there's only 22 lots. One of the extensive amounts of work we've had to do as an applicant is getting sewer across the American Tobacco Trail, which came at a high cost, not only to navigate with DOT and the trail, but actually 2 private easements that burden our development probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. This same sewer will also feed the project to the north of us. So on that one small microcosm scale, 22 not being as big, there is difficulty there. So I just ask council to consider that as you think about some of the things we're going to put the infrastructure in.
Mr. Michaels.
Please.
Hang on one second. We can turn the timer off. Mr. Michaels is the applicant, so we'll...
Okay.
And you're answering questions for us right now.
Okay, great.
Yes, so feel free. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted
No, please.
I wanted to catch you at time so you
Thank
didn't
you.
feel like you were being rushed.
No, the big thing is, we agree with everything. We've done several projects here. This is actually a purchase, develop, and build ourselves. We own a building company called Envision Homes as well. So beyond just developing and moving on, we actually are part of the fabric and building value here, and something that we're really excited about doing, the whole thing, and that is our business model primarily.
Let me guide you towards
Please.
the questions that were posed to you. Because, no offense, we don't need a sales pitch.
Please.
So we have some open questions here.
Revenue I answered, right?
You got the price range? Yes, I got it. So there was a request.
Solar.
There was a request for, if I could break it into 2. One request was pre-wiring all the homes so that they could have solar panels added to them with ease.
Yeah, and that's, may I interrupt there, pre-configuring, which means simply putting conduit from the attic down to a point very close to the electric distribution panel. That's
Yes,
all
sir.
it is.
So would you be willing to add that
Absolutely.
to the condition? Okay.
Absolutely, to pre-configure is no issue. I'm not a solar expert, and so on the I think it was 15% or 4 homes, I think
4
was
homes.
the request. I would love to meet in the middle, if I'm being honest on it, just because I'm not super educated on the fact today. I have 0 issue pre-configuring, so if there is some leniency in the request, I would appreciate it. We want the deal to go through. Ultimately, if that's something needs to be done to conditionally get it passed, then we'd be willing to do the 15%. But, I would ask maybe for leniency and meet in the middle and pre-configure all of them.
I can go with pre-configure. Honestly, we need to have something there. I talked about 4 houses.
Yes, sir.
This is somewhat new, I recognize that. I've been working with another developer for the same thing. If we went to 2 houses, that's your model house and one other, I guarantee you will have buyers,
Sure.
okay? And if you're looking at a 6 kilowatt system, it's probably $18,000 at the most, especially if you work with solar photovoltaic companies. And when you sell it, it is a net positive for the purchaser, because they will be producing more energy each month and more revenue than it costs them for their increase in their debt service for the house.
Yes, sir.
So it can be. I would like you to do 2 houses and then pre-configure the rest of them. If pre-configuring is very simple. It's really cheap.
Sure, sure.
I know it is.
Sure.
And done right, I think you can get, you can do better than what I just quoted if you work with the proper solar installation companies.
And the 2 home serve would be absolutely up to our choice within the 22
Absolutely.
developed. Okay.
And you really, 25% of your houses easily can be solar photovoltaic assembled, because, people worry about aesthetics. They go on the back roof, because 25% of your houses are gonna have a major roof in all likelihood facing south. That's where you
Sure.
wanna have it. So I'm really very, very light on what my request is. Even with the 4 houses, it's light.
Sure.
But I would appreciate it if you can do 2 and then pre-configure the rest of them. Okay.
So I heard that you offered it as a condition, and Councilman Jensen, you accept that. I'd like to point out a couple things here. First of all, I think I appreciate your willingness to be reasonable when Mr. Michaels asked if he could meet you in the middle. I appreciate that. I also would like to point out that you're going to be the first one doing this, and
It's probably the first one. I think we have one more possible.
It gives you the ability, well, I mean, in terms of as a condition, it's
Yes.
the first one. It's certainly something to talk about and use it as you see fit,
Sure.
Use it as a marketing advantage to your benefit if you want to. So without getting too far down the road, were there any other open questions from council members that, I think that was all I had, but...
I had
Did you have one open, or a new one?
A new one.
Okay, go ahead.
So whenever I've talked to the majority of people that want to stay here in Apex.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that I'm hearing from a lot of them is that they cannot find a first floor master house. So if when you're looking at designing these houses, when you're looking at, what type of houses you put in, a lot of people are looking for them. So I have a feeling they would sell very quickly if you had first floor masters.
Of course, as a builder, that's absolutely an amenity for us, and I think with the lot size, it's something we're gonna drive towards anyway, because to your point, the entire market loves to avoid stairs if possible. That's not hold true for everybody, but I have no issue in saying that we'll have a master down plan out there, and given as we continually develop it and how we fit, it's no issue to us. That's something that's very reasonable. I don't know if we need to decide on a ratio, or,
I think not. I think this is one of those things where I would take that, if you don't mind, but I would take this as a general comment that, and I think most of us up here would probably nod our heads in agreement, because I hear this a lot as well.
Sure.
There are a lot of downsizers looking for them, knee issues, hip issues, etc. There's a lot of folks who are working here professionally, moving their parents from whatever state they're in to here, and they're looking for downstairs masters. So I think ultimately your buyers are going to tell you up front, but I think going into it, be advised that we hear this, so
Sure.
when you talk to your plan guys, it probably would be wise to have some downstairs options for for at least one bedroom downstairs, yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm not gonna prolong this, but that is exactly, right. I actually have a downstairs master, and when I moved in, that was the only floor plan that we could get that in. And so, but we also have one, it's pretty much a 1.5 story, so everything else is down, and there's like just one room up.
Sure.
And so that's a nice option for people too. But I agree with that, and I also hear that with townhomes, that, you know, there's a bedroom down, but that's not a master. So people have to go upstairs and the guests are down. So I agree with that. But I want to thank you for your willingness to listen to what our concerns are. Some are conditions and some are just our thoughts and things that we want to see. So you mentioned your company Envision, and so I hope
Envision
that...
Homes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just got a good feel from you, so I'm hoping that as we work forward to sort of, with our challenge of affordability here, that you would think about, like, with your expertise to help lend to what we might do to craft something, a plan to address those issues. I would love for the staff who want to live here to
Sure.
be able to, want to live here to be able to do so. So I'd like to see that if you hope to maybe, work towards a solution. You might not be able to do it here, but maybe you could do it at your next project.
Yes, ma'am. And I just want to say, one of the things that's important to us is whether or not, Mr. Jensen's kind enough to hear me out. I mean, we plan to be in Apex. We have several projects that have gone through Apex. All of them really match the model that I'm prescribing tonight, which is not one and done. So you stapled the message clearly in my mind. This is an initiative that several people feel important. So I hope this isn't the last time we stand up and you go, oh, that's Envision. They're gonna want to make the town better in that way. So we're glad to concede the 2 homes as a condition, if that's okay with you.
That'll work.
And the master down, obviously, that's a great goal for us. I appreciate your sensitivity to pricing. Sometimes these things contrast to each other, which I've been teaching sales managers forever, When the master goes down, the foundation goes out and things go up. But we can get a lot of stuff done, and I appreciate all your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if I speak to that as well.
Sure, okay.
I've been thinking about and talking about this issue of affordable housing for, quite a while. And it's not an easy solution, for sure. It needs to be a multi-pronged approach to making change. But I will say that, I would like to see some interesting ideas come out from developers. If you have, you're planning on building homes that are minimum of $375,000, and like Councilman Dozier said, it's, you might not be able to do it in this setting.
Sure.
But it couldn't hurt to look at it, when you're interspersing affordable housing within a community. And whether you're working with nonprofits to do that, or whether you're just taking a floor out, going from a 3-story down to a 2-story, or even a 1-story, to try to make that affordable. I would love to see plans for that in the future.
Okay.
And just I'll close on this. The nice part about us is we can help dictate that, because if you're the end user lot buyer, that's removed from your abilities as a home builder, as you would suspect. So it's good feedback. Thank you.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Mick, M-I-C-K. Last name is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, this has been a good conversation. I appreciate the 2 new conditions. I think this would be a good time to ask the council for a motion, probably for approval with the 2 conditions that were added. Did you? Oh, I need to go to open, yeah, that's right, public hearing. I apologize, thank you for, Mr. Curry already spoke, and he was the only one that signed up, so formally, I'll open the public hearing and recognize that Mr. Curry already spoke, so he was the only one that signed in for public hearing. Thank you for catching me on that. So I'll now close the public hearing and renew my sentence about requesting a motion for approval with the new conditions added.
I'll make a motion that we approve with the new conditions.
All right, is there a second?
And we know what those new conditions are.
Staff have been taking them, but for the motion's purpose, it was the pre-configuring the solar panels on all of the homes.
Reconfiguring the homes for solar photovoltaic.
Pre-configuring for solar panels on all of the homes, and to put 2 solar panels on, 2 homes on, with solar panels with 6 kilowatt.
Minimum 6 kilowatts.
Minimum, yeah.
Okay,
I was thinking that.
good.
Yeah, those are the
Sure,
conditions.
we'll get there.
And I think staff's heard it, so they got it. But that was your motion. You okay with that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second then?
Second.
Okay, we got it. You were too slow there, Councilman.
Oh, I don't mind.
All right, we got a motion and a
It's
second.
age. No, it's age. This young man is half my age,
He's and twice as fast.
and twice as smart.
Is there conversation or discussion on the motion on the table? Not hearing any, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for your participation. We now move to public hearing number 2. This is a possible annexation. This is annexation number 622 of about 3 acres on Green Level Church Road. And Diane Ken is presenting.
Good evening. Just to orient you to the site, this is Green Level Church Road, and this is the flats at 540, which are townhomes and apartments. These are 2 properties owned by Edith Morris. There are 2 single-family homes on these properties, and they have already been tied onto town water, and they are asking for annexation.
All right, thank you very much, Diane. Any questions for Diane before
Is the annexation for water, that's what it's all
Yes.
about?
Yes, their wells had failed.
Like gold, isn't it?
All right, thank you, Diane. This time I'll open the public hearing, and I see that no one signed up, so I will now close the public hearing, refer the matter back to council for a possible motion.
Motion to approve?
Ah, good, we got a motion to approve. Is there a second? And a second. Any discussion on the motion to approve?
The young man next to me is much faster than I am.
Yes, that's established.
Yeah.
All right, not hearing any further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move to public hearing number 3. Public hearing number 3 is on the next page. And this is related to Unified Development Ordinances with Amanda Bunce presenting.
As seems usual lately, there's a list of UDO amendments. And I will be going through each one and pausing to ask, see if you have questions. The first amendment is to the Board of Adjustment section to increase the number of alternate members from 2 to 3. It's a simple amendment. Planning Board recommended approval of this, and this will just help us to ensure we have a quorum at Board of Adjustment meetings. Any questions on that? Okay.
The only comment I'll have for council is that I have heard from staff that it is a challenge sometimes to get a full quorum together. So, I would support that one. I just want to let you all know I've heard this in the past. Okay.
Okay. The next is a series of amendments to the UDO to strike the use game rooms and all references to it in the ordinance, but to combine the intent of that use into the use entertainment indoor. In addition to that, to expand the definition of entertainment indoor. So, as you can see, the use table here with the use game room struck, and then no changes to where the use entertainment indoor is proposed. And I've just kind of given a key for those of you unfamiliar with the use table. A P indicates the use is permitted. The S indicates that it's a special use requiring town council approval. And then the percentages, the asterisks, in the Sustainable Development District where you see 2, you notice that the P is not, you have to refer to the Sustainable Development Plan, excuse me. And then in the Small Town Character District, it's allowed only if it's allowed in the underlying zoning district. So that's a very quick summary of how the use table works. We'll see this one again in a later amendment. So for the definition of entertainment indoor, we've added the intent of, or the language from the game rooms use. And then we've also added uses which are popular these days but are not specifically called out in the UDO, such as laser tag, escape rooms, climbing walls, trampoline park, and electric go-karts. And then the remaining amendments are the removing the references to game rooms. And the Planning Board did recommend approval of this unanimously. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I have one. Was that change initiated by you guys, or was it a request from a possible business?
It was a request from a possible business. Someone contacted us about a use that did not neatly fall anywhere within the UDO, and a UDO amendment was going to be required anyway. And then as we started looking at it, it's kind of antiquated to have game rooms called out as a separate use. We really don't have arcades these days like we did when I was growing up. So we felt it was just important to take a look at the entertainment indoor use as a whole and see how we could best fit what the market's calling for these days and what's provided for today.
So now game room falls under the category of indoor entertainment?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a better bucket, isn't it?
Sure. It's much more simple.
I don't think you know what arcade games play. I don't think
Pole position.
I don't think
I
so.
know it.
Pole position.
I don't think you see it. Some of us up here have it, but.
I will date myself on that one. Any other questions on that amendment? Okay. The next amendment is to the dimensional standards table for the planned commercial district. The proposal was to increase the maximum height for the uses office, business, or professional, medical, or dental office or clinic, and hotels. And this is only in the planned commercial district. Currently, hotel or motel falls under all other uses, so we are separating that out in the dimension table. And we are proposing to increase the height to 75 feet. The planning board recommended approval of this by a vote of 4 to 2. Any questions on this?
Was there any, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask the nays on this. What was the reasoning?
Some of the reason was, one of the members felt that perhaps the planning committee or the town council should discuss this carefully with regard to the increase in height. Another board member had concern with the increase in height from 48 feet to 75 feet and just the character of the difference in height within Apex. One thing that was pointed out at the planning board meeting was that buildings over a certain height already have to come to you for approval as a major site plan. So there is that chance to look at the height in context with the area. And then another consideration is for areas that are not already zone plan commercial, you have the opportunity to consider, and staff does as well, what an appropriate height would be at the time of rezoning, and a condition could be offered at that time if it were necessary. Most of the planned commercial zoning districts are not near residential areas, so staff did look carefully at what was already zone plan commercial and was not already developed, and felt that it was a change that was good to make. In addition, increasing the height to 75 feet for hotels and motels helps us attract those higher-end hotels that are 6 stories, 5, 6 stories or greater. So.
And what height usually triggers to come before the council?
Currently, it's over 3 stories.
All right. Anything else on this one?
No, I just think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
We still have control, and we'll allow it to go higher. And if you look at Pleasant Park and things like that we're going to be developing, we're going to have probably more hotels here, and to put them in one area and be able to go vertical, and it's a smart way to go.
And if you remember, we've also spoken about this near US 1.
Yes.
Where we have already a few shorter hotels, but there's really nothing there that I would have a concern being next to the highway for that to be as within reason, as tall as somebody feels like they want to build, if they think they could put people in it, if they think they have the business.
I agree.
So even 5 or 6 floors, if it's right there and they think they can do that and make a business model of it, that's an okay place, in my opinion, from a planning perspective.
Yeah.
It doesn't distract from the small town character, because our small town character is our central business area.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have to be innovative and grow with the times, and if we're saying to people that we want to grow in different ways, then we reject hotels or motels that have conference centers or different things that we don't have currently for large meetings, then we're going to have to do something about it. They can't do it in, 3 floors or.
I'll also add that in attracting businesses, one of the things they look for is are there suitable hotels nearby for traveling employees or sales people or people like that to come and stay while they're at the places of business.
And hold conferences.
Yeah, yep, that's right. Okay, anything else?
Okay,
Amanda, did you have anything else?
not on that one.
All right.
Moving right along,
All right.
number 4. This is a change to the landscape installation and inspection section of the ordinance. Is basically the requirements for the timing of when required landscaping has to be installed. Currently, the references to site plan and subdivisions are intertwined a bit, and the standards are different. Site plans, the buffering is installed at the time of CO, certificate of occupancy, whereas for subdivisions, that timing must be by the plat, by the time of the signing of the plat. And those are distinct. So we're proposing to basically separate out the timing in the ordinances to reference site plans separately from subdivisions. And there's really no substantial changes. Essentially, we're just separating those out to make it clearer and more understandable.
Questions? All right.
Okay. And the planning board did unanimously recommend approval of that. Number 5 is a couple of amendments to the vehicular use area landscaping standards. The first amendment is to, essentially what we're setting up for are 2 exceptions to vehicle use area shading standards. Vehicle use area shading standards. There's already one exception in the ordinance that we're proposing to move from its current location and move to an exception subsection. The new exception that we are proposing is that areas where there's an existing overhead utility easement, or in areas immediately adjacent to that where utility companies have this peripheral zone where they can come and clear to protect their easement, that the plantings would not have to be located within that area, that the plantings would be moved elsewhere on the site, and the relocation of those plantings would be as approved by the planning director. So they're not just shoving them all in the back corner where it's easy, but dispersing them as much as possible throughout the site would be the intent of that. The other amendment in that section is more of just clarifications in striking the language that individual landscape islands shall include a raised concrete curb to prevent damage by automobile or pedestrian traffic, because the next sentence offers other options as well, including curbs. And then just clarifying that the smallest area of a landscape island is referring to the planting area. The planning board did recommend approval of these changes, which also includes removing graphics from the UDO that are a bit out of date.
Was this curb on the or the traffic circle, is that the right term?
It's a landscape island. It's basically where you would see a tree and shrubs planted in a parking lot.
This is a result of them being driven over and destroyed, or?
Well, right. So if there's not something, whether it's wheel stops, curbs, or other devices to stop vehicles, there is potential that one could damage required landscaping. So the intent is to protect the landscape.
Has it happened? Is that where this is coming from, or is this just trying to prevent it?
I'm sure it's happened in the past. We've had this standard in the UDO for quite some time, so most development now has usually curbs are provided. Okay. Number 6. This is a proposed amendment to 3 sections of the UDO in order to add a type of communication tower for public safety users. So the use name would be public safety communication tower. It's proposed to be allowed as a special use in many of the zoning districts in town. And again, the intent of this is for public safety purposes such as police, fire, and EMS. The standards for the communication tower were modeled after that. It's required for commercial communication towers. The primary difference, 2 primary differences. The tower must be used by public safety users, and the height is allowed to be up to 400 feet tall. Currently, commercial towers are capped at 199 feet. But in more remote areas, there is a need for a higher tower height, which prevents the need for more towers. So the taller the tower, the broader the range. That's oversimplifying the explanation, but that's the general gist of it. And then there are design standards for how the tower should be designed as well. That's different considering the height that is proposed. The fact that this is a special use, would be allowed as a special use, means that they would come to you for approval, and if the council saw fit, a lower height could be approved. So you would be able to see the proposed tower in the context of where it's going to be located.
The fall radius, of course, takes,
Right, and at this height, these towers are designed so that basically they fall over on themselves
okay.
like this, instead of a tilt over. It's a collapse upon itself and creating a fall zone that's much smaller than you wouldn't anticipate it to just topple.
And that works every time?
There's engineering standards behind it. I've seen this standard in many communities used, so.
Okay, I understand, thank you.
I have, my question on this is, I'm not sure I understand why a public safety tower needs to have different rules, than a commercial tower. And I don't understand the logic and why separate the two types of towers.
Well, the impetus of this was, Wake County, Emergency Services is proposing a tower, and that will be coming before you in a separate hearing. But for public safety users, where they're able to find a place to put a tower and locate a tower, and in this case it's a more further out area of town, the higher height is necessary. There's no way under our current ordinance to allow them to go taller. And then the question is, why not have the same standard for commercial towers? I'm not sure that, I don't think staff is really supportive of having 400-foot potentially towers all over town, nor would, I think, most residents within the town. That's something that we've discussed, and where I've worked in other places as well. I think allowing an exception for a public safety users, I think people generally understand there's going to be fewer of these, and the purpose is greater than the impact maybe of seeing a taller tower.
Yeah, I guess the reason I asked the question is because maybe I'm very familiar with antennas and the way they work and communications, but also looking at how over time towers are getting shorter and more plentiful, and that's the trend, right? We're now talking about 5G cell towers, which are not more than 50 feet tall or something like that, right? And so the trend is that towers are getting shorter and there's more of them and they blend in better rather than to have nothing for a long time and then a very tall tower. So, and I'm not opposed necessarily to a public safety tower, but from a technology standpoint, I don't understand why anyone would pursue a single large tower as opposed to putting 2 or 3, 199-foot towers in strategically located places. And you can cover the same area or more, so I guess...
So our understanding, and we had meetings with the public safety folks, both within the town of Apex, town of Cary, and with Wake County Emergency Management. And our understanding is there's one dead zone that they need to fill, and it happens to be out toward New Hill. Mm-hmm. And if they put this tower on the land at the wastewater treatment plant down in New Hill, it will cover all of the dead areas by doing this one 400-foot tower. Mm-hmm. They are working with the towns of Cary and, I can't tell them. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. It's going to be quasi-judicial.
That will be coming.
Sorry.
So I'd kind of rather...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We were supportive of this change for public safety only. We are not supportive of private for-profit towers coming in at that height.
Sure.
When you get over 199 feet, you have the blinking lights on there. There's other impacts we would like to see only for this higher purpose to be higher than that limit.
Right. So I guess I understand that part, and with the special use permit required, I'm at least not overly concerned because that gives us the ability to look at it and go, no, not there, or not that tall.
Right.
And not having a P there is very important, because I wouldn't want somebody to feel like that they have that right once they have gotten that as a approved use. But I do find it odd, even given the hypothetical situation that we're not talking about, I do find it odd that a solution for more than one tower at lesser height isn't being considered. Like I said, the trend in all communications is to go shorter towers with more of them spread around. They blend in better to their surroundings, and the whole market's going that way. So I just find it very strange that this is not being pursued. With that said, I guess, not that I'm voting, but if I'm talking to the council members, that the special use of the S being there gives us the ability to look at a specific instance, and to whatever degree we want to, just say no, not like that.
With these towers, ones for public safety, are they typically on, or are they ever on like private property, or are they almost always a case where maybe a treatment plant or wherever a public space would be? Is that where they normally are located? Are there any around right now in Apex?
I'm sure we do have public safety towers. I'm not aware of where they are and if they're on public land or if they're land leases from private property owners. There's not a specification that the land be owned by the public, so there could be a situation where the land is leased, but oftentimes you'll see cell tower companies, if it were a commercial one, purchasing the plot of land that they need for their equipment. Okay, and the planning board did unanimously recommend approval of that with changes that involved capitalizing public safety and adding some emphasis to public safety throughout the text.
Amanda, before you move on, could you give an example of one of these tower heights here close to us?
Well, we don't have one of exactly that height close within Apex to my knowledge. The one that's out 1010 is way taller than that because it serves more than just cell service. So I'm not aware of one that's 400 feet.
There's one down off of Old Raleigh Road, is that?
The one between Center Street and Old Raleigh Road is about 500 feet, I thought.
I can't speak to it because I don't know. I didn't measure them.
That's okay. I grew up there, so I know it. Well, we used to call it the Motorola Tower. I don't know who owns it these days, but that's between the Motorola. Yeah, Motorola. You heard of them, right? They invented the car phone? Okay.
Right, in the 80s.
Yeah. But between Old Raleigh Road and Center Street, there is a tower that is tall-ish, but not excessively tall. The one out 1010 past US 1, that's nice play. That's like 2,000 feet or something. That's like the old
1,200.
Oh, 1,200? Thank you, 1,200. Yeah, that's the old television antenna, now for other uses, but, yeah.
Okay. And so moving on, number 7 is the last one we'll talk about tonight. This is a proposal to amend the definition of minor subdivision. Minor subdivision is that which involves no more than 4 lots, does not propose to dedicate any public street right-of-way, and currently does not require the extension of sanitary sewer or public water. And what we are proposing is to strike the portion of the definition that says does not require extension of sanitary sewer or water mains to service the lots. Staff has looked at this in context of different situations, and we don't really see much of a difference between a very small minor subdivision that's less than 4 lots than the situations where you have well failures or sewer failures and lots come in, sometimes one and then the next and then the next come in and tap on to town water and sewer and extend those lines in that manner. And so staff is proposing this amendment so that minor subdivisions, if they so need to or choose to, could tap on to water and sewer provided by the town. No, annexation would still be required to receive those services.
All right.
And the planning board recommended approval of that unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Okay. And I did just want to point out, there was one other amendment that was advertised for public hearing, that in looking at it in depth and having legal review, we realized there's another section that needs to go with it, and so that was to the civil penalty section. You'll be seeing that next month.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. I refer to the sheet. I see Mr. Stuart Jones has signed up to speak. Mr. Jones?
You all covered all my items, so I'm good.
Okay. He waives his sign up. All right, with that said, that was the end of the list, so I'll now close the public hearing or further matter back to council for possible motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and that concludes our public hearings for tonight. We have no old business, so that now takes us to unfinished business. We now refer to the Parks and Recreation Committee, who did have a follow-up meeting after last town council meeting. So at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Councilman Moyer, who is the chair, to give us a report and make a recommendation for us.
Yes, so, Audrey and I met with, the organizers of the Music Fest and reviewed their request and have decided to, amend, the original, amend the original conditions that we had put on them and allow them, space for VIP parking, in the back, in gravel lots back there, and we're willing to provide, in-kind services for, the, what's that department, Mr.?
Public Works.
For Public Works, to help them. They're kind of in the process of rebranding, their Music Fest, energizing it, raising more money for it, so we felt that this would be a goodwill thing for us to do, with the expectation that we want to see them start raising more money for this event, as opposed to the minimals of money they have raised in the, in the past, and not so, we would like to see them give more to local charities, but we also want to see them be a viable organization on their own, and this is one of their major fundraisers. So we did put a minimum that 80%, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 80% minimum of what they raise from this event stays in the organization for future expenses with the ADBA.
According to their own stated agenda of what they would like to do, so, yeah.
Okay, all right. And I guess, just to be clear, that comes unanimously from the
That's
committee?
correct.
Okay, very good.
Correct.
All right, let me ask council members, do you have any questions for the committee members, or is there a motion?
I guess my quick question is, they were involved, they were there, what was their thoughts on the whole situation in terms of the VIP parking? Is that what they requested, or
They
how
had,
did that come about?
they had requested, VIP parking, that was pretty extensive.
Yes.
So we narrowed that down, to what we thought was, more appropriate, while still allowing, people who, get there first to have parking, first come, first serve. So, we have still allowed, I think it's up to, what, 80
I think
lots?
about 80, 100, I think, roughly.
80 parking spots for VIP parking, so people that pay in advance for that, would have a dedicated parking spot. So it's another good way for them to raise money.
Interesting, I didn't realize you could pay for the privilege of a VIP space, but it makes sense. Like going to a sporting event or something, you can pay for that. Did you get your questions answered? Okay.
I think so. I guess, we're giving, $10,000 to the Pig Fest, but we're not giving much of anything. We're not, what are we doing?
Sorry?
There's no direct cash to...
There is none.
No, sir.
Okay, I just wanted, I thought there was, but okay, I'm good, thank you.
I just want to say thank you. So with some of the things that were raised, last meeting, that you all went back. I know it's not easy to have committee meetings and more committee meetings. So I appreciate you doing that, and going back and getting our questions and concerns answered and coming back with a solution that people can agree upon, I guess. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Same here.
Yep. Is there a motion from, well, I guess we don't need a motion necessarily, the committee brings it, but, so let me just ask the council, if you're prepared to vote, we'll just ask for a vote of approval based on the recommendation that comes from the committee. All right, if there's no further discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously, just as recommended by the committee. Thank you very much for that extra work. Thank you, council, and at this time, that concludes unfinished business, and we now move to new business number 1. This is to approve a resolution authorizing application with the Local Government Commission to issue $1.5 million of general obligation REEF-funding bonds, which doesn't mean you get a refund, it just means you get to fund it again.
Well, now, the folks who hold our bonds, they are getting refunded for those bonds they're holding.
Don't make me play this game again.
So there is a refunding element.
Normal terms, glossary of terms. People understand.
Go ahead, Mr. Vance Holloman, you've got the floor.
Yes, sir. Staff is asking that council pass a resolution stating that there has been determined to be an economic benefit to the town of refunding a portion of the 2008 park and recreation bonds and directing the staff to file an application with the Local Government Commission to issue debt for that purpose. That resolution will also direct the town clerk to publish notice of that intent to file the application. Also, appoint Womble Bond Dickinson as the bond counsel for this transaction, and Davenport and Company as the financial advisor.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Holloman on the bonds?
So, I do have a question.
Okay.
So I can understand this. So, we essentially call the bond and pay the bond holders off?
Yes, sir.
And we are going into debt because we can get it at a lower interest rate, is that?
We will have an economic savings, yes, sir. There is a reduction in financing rates from which the cost at which the debt was originally issued. We're going to be refunding the serial maturities for those bonds, 2019 to 2028. Essentially, traditionally in the bond industry, after 10 years, bonds are callable, and that's what we're doing. This is a current refunding. The tax law is outlawing advance refundings now, so we are doing a current refunding. We actually will retire these bonds within 90 days of the issuance. Actually, we retire them June 1, which is within the 90 days of the issuance of our refunding bonds, which is permitted by current tax law.
All right, so council, we're asking us to let Vance fill out a form to go fill out an application with the LGC so that they can say, yea, verily, you can go do this, right?
Yes, sir.
We want the LGC to bless it. All right, so council, is there a motion to authorize our finance director and town staff generally to do that application?
I'll make a motion. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go fill out an application. Hopefully it's not too long. Thank you, Vance, I appreciate it.
Wait till tomorrow.
Get started. Get started. All right, new business number 2, this is a motion to approve Colby Crossing Master Subdivision Plan. And we have Sarah Rayfield is presenting this. This is about 7.5 acres and 14 single-family homes. Ms. Rayfield.
Good evening. Bringing before you the Colby Crossing Master Subdivision Plan. May orient you to the site. Here is the subject parcel. It is located in between Colby Chase Drive. It is one parcel totaling 7.58 acres, located between the Marion and Pemberley residential developments existing on Colby Chase Drive. The property is heavily wooded, and there's a stream down here dissecting the southern portion of the property. Again, it's 7.58 acres. They are proposing 14 lots with a density of 1.84 units per acre. The current zoning is medium-density residential, conditional zoning. Here. The 2030 land use map recommendation is medium-high density residential, high-density residential. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on September 20th, 2017. The neighborhood meeting report is attached. And just to, I'll show you here is the, let me go back, sorry. Up here to your north, you have future Horton Park PUD development. Over here to the east is the Marion single-family residential development. To the west over here is Pemberley, and over here to the west is Miramont. RCA is not required for this subdivision per the UDO section 8.1.2.3.C3, low-density single-family residential developments. This is the, the proposed project will extend existing public facilities. Staged grading is proposed for this development. There are several architectural standards that were approved as part of the rezoning back in November 2015. Most of these are the common conditions that are associated with our conditional zonings. I will point out that the density was limited to no more than 2 dwellings per acre. This is their overall landscape plan. There are perimeter buffers of 10-foot type V all around the property. With this parcel, or this lot rather, over here having a 20-foot type B, and that's because of the class 1 to 2 over here in this area. And these are just to show you some of the examples in regards to those architectural features. These are the elevations that have been submitted. The Parks and Rec Advisory Commission reviewed the proposed Colby Crossing subdivision on September 30th, 2015. A fee in lieu was recommended, and that information is included in your staff report. The proposed master subdivision is consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. Also, just to let you know that Colby Chase Drive, that'll be coming through here, making this east-west connection, will be built to a 60-foot right-of-way. It is a minor collector, which allows for driveways. Eventually, there will be the stub out here for future connection to the Horton Park PUD. And the subdivision will end in a cul-de-sac here to the south over the stream crossing, and this area here is RCA, so there's no need for a stub out. There's no future development connection that will be needed. But again, this will provide that east-west connection as well as a north-south future connection. The proposed master subdivision plan provides access through these 2 roadways. One roadway will complete the missing segment of Colby Chase Drive through the site. The second roadway terminates in a cul-de-sac to the south and the stub street up here to the north. Planning staff recommendation. Planning staff recommends approval of the Colby Crossing master subdivision plan with the conditions as follows. 1, Colby Crossing final plat cannot be approved and recorded until the Middle Creek Regional Pump Station is operational or the Water Resources Director or designee has released the final plat for recordation. The Water Resources Director may consider the pump station to be bonded for the full cost of the pump station based on the status at the time of the request. Number 2, the town of Apex will not consider alternate sewer options, including a temporary pump station, pump and haul, or individual house pumps. I'm going to take you back here to the overall layout. And this here is the pump station in question, which is partially on the subject parcel here. I'll be happy to entertain any questions at this time.
All right, questions for Sarah?
The east-west connection, Colby Chase, is closed through Marion. There will be no access to Marion. I believe I remember as part of the conversation with the Horton Park PUD.
The construction is through Miramont and Pemberley. Yes, that is a condition of the PUD, but this will be, eventually this will be open when this connection is made.
Eventually, but it will not be opened once it's complete. I mean, what's the conditions on that, or Jesse Drive or something, I believe, was...
The east-west connection to Marion will open with full functioning, north-south connection, to Jesse Drive.
Okay,
When
so
that
once
starts.
that, so Colby Chase will not be open through Marion until the north-south connector is built up to Jesse.
Mhm. Correct.
So all construction traffic is coming through the west,
Correct.
Miramont and whatever the other, Pemberley.
Okay.
So you've definitely got a stream running through there. Are they putting a bridge over that stream?
Yes, everything, meets UDO, requirements as far as crossing that stream in the design and the buffering.
Okay. Is there any concern about flooding those houses that are south? Because they would be completely cut off if it did.
There haven't been any that have been brought to my attention, but that's, not a question that I have the expertise to answer.
The UDO does not allow floodplain to be located on single-family lots. There is no floodplain on the lot, so, I mean, I can answer that.
This question might be better for the applicant, but you may know if there's been any adjustment in the price. So we were originally looking at $500 to $750. Wanted to know if there was any adjustment in that from the original application.
That's not any information that I have. That would be a question for the applicant.
Okay.
It's the
And so
applicant-
we can wait for everyone to go around for...
Yeah, let's see
Okay.
let's see if anybody else has any other questions for staff, and then we can see if anybody here can address that question. Nothing? No other questions for Sarah? All right, so is there anyone here who can speak to the price point of the future homes? Please make yourself known. And just to be clear, this is a little out of the ordinary because this is part of our new business. We normally don't do this, but since this is a follow-up question and this is a common theme,
Perfect.
you can speak to it.
And I think I missed the original presentation, so
Okay.
I was out of town.
I actually have 3 questions that were asked that I can answer real quick. By the way, Jeff Roach of Peak Engineering and Design. We are also working on Horton Park, so, between Horton Park and Colby Chase, we have a lot of answers. So, I'll start with Ms. Dozier's question about the cost of the homes. We actually made a commitment to the Marion neighbors to try to keep it close to their home price, as well as the Pemberley neighbors, because we're trying to integrate between Pemberley and Miramont on both sides when that road's connected. We don't want to have houses that are way below Marion and way below Pemberley, or way above either one of them. So we're kind of shooting for right in the middle. That's where it puts it about that $450 to $550 range. So that's about what, puts it right between the two of them. The second question, Mr. Moore, you asked about closing Colby Chase. That's correct. It will be closed for construction traffic because it will generally be constructed about the same time as the Horton Park project north of this. So construction traffic will either come through Pemberley on the west, or it'll come south down from Jesse Drive. So it is being closed as a commitment to the Horton Park subdivision. And then, Ms. Killingsworth, you asked about the bridge at the bottom there. This creek is probably about this wide, so it's not going to be a bridge. It'll be a culvert crossing. We are applying to DEQ and Army Corps for the crossing impacts that are required for any buffer and stream crossing impacts. And that will be the only one. There's a creek here. There's also a stream right there. It's not shaded, but you can see it in the upper corner. And all these head down to Middle Creek and then head south. The planning director was very clear. This line right there is the existing floodplain for Middle Creek. As you see coming along the backside, it's just off property. So none of the lots are in the actual 100-year floodplain for Middle Creek as well. So what will happen is we will design that to cross for 10 to 25-year storm. It's not going to be a problem if this starts to back up. 100-year flood is all the way down at Middle Creek. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Oh.
answered all the questions. I feel there's gonna be more, but.
Yeah, you're darn right. As I say out there, I didn't ask staff because I recognize that,
Do you
I may.
need a question answered?
oh, I just was, interested to know if they're gonna pre-configure.
For solar, I assume?
solar, And we commit to that.
There's no commitment to do it. I do know that we're talking to the builders actually tomorrow, on Horton Park as well as this project. I can't commit to it only because I don't know who the builder's gonna be. It's one of the discussions that we will have through Mr. Whitehead and the builder on this project to run the pre-wire for them.
The
So,
pre-conduit.
yeah, the 1-inch conduit from the roof to the box, so
Yeah.
that if they decide to panel for it, they
So
can,
that-
it's
yeah,
set
to
up
the
for
box,
it.
Yeah, it's the simplest thing.
We're starting to do it on every project, Mr. Jensen. We've heard you ask quite a bit for it, so it's one of those things we understand as, talk to our builders.
I feel good, you know, but, you know, I'd love to see a 6-kilowatt system put on one of these houses also.
Well, that we can't commit to at this point. I'm not a builder, and I don't plan to be a
I know,
builder, so.
I know you can't commit, but,
Well, I'm-
would you please?
I will talk to him.
I'm gonna cut
I know I
you
ca-
off.
I can't-
I'm gonna let you go, I'm gonna give you an escape route, you feel free, we're done with you, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Roach.
For now.
I'm not, it's not we, it might be you, but I'm not
cutting you
done.
off, but you've already had this speech tonight, so we're good. We're good, we've already had that.
No, well, this is a new development, I mean, I know
He's been here the whole time, since 7 o'clock.
well, he's making big bucks. We aren't.
All right, we've now discussed it, and we've heard from staff. I'd like to ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve, is there a second? All right, and a second. Any further discussion on the motion?
I got shut off, but I'll be quiet.
Well,
It's okay.
I think we've heard your point.
Okay.
All right, no further discussion, and I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We now move to new business number 3. This is the possible annexation of a portion of Laura Duncan Road over near Laurel Park
Elementary.
Elementary School.
My kids
Thank
go
you,
there.
Diane Kent.
Yeah. So, this is Laura Duncan Road, south of North Salem Street, and then it turns actually into Old Apex Road here. We are requesting a legislative annexation of this portion of Laura Duncan Road so that the town has the authority to regulate and provide emergency services to this portion of Laura Duncan Road. It's bounded by the town of Apex on the west and by the town of Cary on the east. And given that the road's not annexed, any accidents that occur within the roadway have to be handled by the Wake County Sheriff's Department versus either of the town's police departments. This makes response times very lengthy. It became apparent following an accident in which a child crossing this portion of the road was involved that neither Apex nor Cary had planning jurisdiction over the length of NCDOT roadway, and so it makes planning, designing, and implementing needed pedestrian safety improvements more difficult. Town of Cary requested that one of the towns annex the road so emergency service delivery would be more efficient, and after discussion between the town managers of Apex and Cary, it was determined that it actually made the most sense for the town of Apex to annex the portion. And this is because we actually have utilities located in the roadway, and we also have already annexed north and south portions of Laura Duncan Road. You can see in the kind of lime green color. And so we do recommend approval of moving this forward to make the request for a legislative annexation from the North Carolina General Assembly.
All right, thank you, Diane. So it wasn't an arm wrestling match
No.
that we won.
No.
You sure?
No, I'm positive.
But you could take them if you needed to?
He's wiry, though.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let me ask council if there's any discussion or questions for staff.
I do have
Okay.
one question. Did this kind of spark any other areas around town that we might need to look at for the same purpose?
No, sir.
Did this spark any pedestrian plans or possible features with this area? I know you said it'd be easier if we to allow. I mean, I've heard that concern from people.
Okay, I don't know the specifics.
I don't know if that's
So,
the right time.
I directed staff to examine all of our school zones, and we've kind of put them in priority order as to what improvements need to be made, where the first of those is going to be made at Apex Friendship High on Hume Olive Road. This is in that list of things that we need to do. There are some engineering challenges here because of where the intersections are, where the signal is and the railroad track, but not insurmountable. But we need planning jurisdiction over the road in order to be able to suggest to DOT that they let us do that. But that is part of the plan here. Is to
And is the fact that it's beside Cary, does that affect any kind of planning and make things difficult at all? 'Cause obviously that side, the east side is going to be not Apex anymore, right?
It already
Never was.
It already isn't,
It's
so,
already
yeah, right now, we have the west side, they have the east side, no one has the road, so we're trying to get one or the other to have the road, so we can actually make recommendations for transportation improvements to the roads. That's what kind of sparked all this. No one really has the jurisdiction, and as Ms. Ken alluded to, either the highway patrol or the sheriff's department has to come investigate a wreck there because it's not in either jurisdiction. So it just made sense for us to do it so we can continue to make the improvements. It'll be a little bit challenging when it comes to staffing a crossing guard position there because it's a Cary school,
Yeah.
but an Apex street. So we're still going to have those conversations. Most likely that'll be our crossing guard on Laura Duncan Road.
But I think what you said before, I don't want to overlook, we have utilities in that
Correct.
street. So that makes things a little bit easier for us having to get to our utilities if and when we need to. Yeah.
And the children that cross the road are Apex residents.
Right. So I appreciate this. I think this is the first step in the challenges that we face with transportation improvements and safety, and I think that it's a lot easier to deal with Cary and ourselves than to deal with Wake County, but also being able to deal with NCDOT. Now we're putting this on the record that this is what we're doing, this is why. So the citizens will also know to be able to help us.
Yep. All right, let me call, if there is a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on the motion? I think it's a good thing. I'd like to see, once we have jurisdiction over it, what we can do to make the crossing of Apex children safer. Thank you. With that, I will ask for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. And that completes new business number 3, and I believe that that's the end of our business. But I must turn to the last page to verify it. Yes. So that being the end of our agenda, we have accomplished everything we intended to tonight. And having done so, I can declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.